We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange today.
Attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again, but it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true.
Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. It is the three amigos, and I'm delighted to say I'm joined by Keith, George, Steve, and Mitch as we have another 2-hour show looking back at the last 7 days at Newcastle United. Good evening, chaps.
Good evening. Good evening, everybody.
Good to see you all, and never short of something to talk about. The club putting out an official press release only about an hour and a half, 2 hours ago, and Tom Dixon, as always, straight into the chat with the news that St James's Park will host the inaugural Sela Cup presented by Visit Malta this summer, and it'll feature Newcastle, Fiorentina, Nice, and Villarreal. And a little side note to that as well, that Newcastle United's women's team will also feature in a packed schedule across the Saturday and the Sunday, the 5th and 6th of August. Women's team taking on West Bromwich Albion, which will be a good test for them. But Keith, this is great news for a lot of supporters who probably won't get the chance to go to St James's Park next season, but it's also a good thing for Sela. We know that they're talking about potential fan zones, etc. This is going to be a big weekend, isn't it, of football?
It's brilliant. It's the kind of thing where ticket prices are always reflected, where people can take their kids along and families can go along together. So it's unbelievable what it offers. And there's a lot of people that have season tickets and they won't necessarily get to them earlier games. So people will be on holiday, so there should be enough to go around. But for me, there's a bit more interest in there's a lad called Tyne plays for Nice, and I'm hoping the reason they got invited is so we've already done a deal with him. But I'm ever the optimist, always hoping for a new player to come in. But the thing that surprises when you talk about Sela, it's a different subject, but it's related, is what was all that crap about this week where the Premier League approved the Sela deal? It's about 1 million shirts sold. And you know what I mean? Like they've decorated Riyadh up with it and put it out there. And, you know, decorated, they've done an enormous display there. And then after the deals, I mean, it was announced months ago, and all this time takes. So are they saying that what Premier League clubs have got to do is they've got to find a sponsor and tell that sponsor to wait and not go anywhere else, and wait 8 weeks, and then we'll tell you whether you're legitimate or not? What a load of horse crap this is. Like, this isn't the way you run businesses. It's not the way you run football leagues. And if the Premier League thinks that, I mean, it was hideous what they did, because of course it was passed. And of course, PIF weren't going to put a duffer in to start the ball running, because they'd just been waiting for the next deal. So it's obvious it was going to be a clean deal, but it's the timings which beats me. I think that the announcement of the sponsorship, the announcement of the Sela Trophy is great. I love the fact it's people from, you know, Italy, where you can measure against teams They play a different style of football to us. So I think it'll be a really interesting thing to watch. I hope we make the final, because with all those events, everybody seems to go for the full 2 days. But brilliant for kids in the area, and brilliant for families, I think.
Yeah, George, great to see Newcastle, finally getting, it announced. We knew that there'd be some kind of games on, but weren't sure what. We had a feeling it might be something like that. And Tom Lynch says, booked up with the St James's Park friendlies, £55 for 5 games over 2 days isn't bad value for money.
Not at all. It's a great thrill for somebody like me. And I've got to say, I suspected, like me, it brought back memories for me for when Neil and I used to go on summer holiday in Spain. And wherever we went, we always made sure we went when Barcelona were having their pre-season tournament. And we used to go get a bus. Wherever you were, you could always get a bus from the hotel to the tournament in Barcelona. And we sat from late afternoon until 2 o'clock in the bloody morning watching football in the Nou Camp with the big competition like the one that's just been announced for us. And for that to be coming to Newcastle is fantastic. I can't say how exciting that is for somebody like me. And I haven't bought tickets as such, but certainly would like to. The other thing is they've got their marketing right now, haven't they? They're marketing the team, they're marketing Sela, they're marketing the competition, and they haven't forgot the girls. They've slipped the girls in as well. I think that's great, absolutely great. If there's one thing about this lot, if they're doing something serious, they get serious, and I think that's, in terms of what they've done for the women's team, there couldn't be any more serious than that. You're in the middle of a big competition with international clubs, standard clubs, and they're the girls having a game to warm their season up. I just think that's all very positive for the club, very positive for the fans, very positive for the city. And I think this is the first of many. Keith's already mentioned the possibility of a fan zone by Sela or whatever. Well, bring it on is all I've got to say. And I have to say, I was also interested, as Keith was, in this weird announcement about the new sponsor. I could be mistaken, but I've got a distinct impression that when the name of the company first came out, I got a distinct impression it was the bloody Premier League that leaked that name, nobody else. It wasn't somebody up here.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, so that makes it even more weird for me. So, but no, great, Steve. Bring it on. Let's have more of it. Is all I say.
Yeah, I think the point I was making, Steve, is that it's just good for those who can't get into St James's on a regular basis. It's a couple of days of football for them, and a chance to see some of the big name players, and hopefully a couple of more signings.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is what it's all about, isn't it? It's a nice long weekend. 2 games, 2 days, comes straight off the back of Rangers on the 18th up in Glasgow, and then the 3 games in America, where we'll play Villa, Chelsea, and who is it? Brighton. That's right. Yeah. So yeah, all good for Newcastle. I mean, the quality of opposition, you can't complain, can you? I mean, Fiorentina, they were in the what they call the competition. Is it the Conference League?
Yeah.
They were in the final against West Ham, and then play Villarreal, who are no pushovers either. Really looking forward to it. It should be a good weekend, and as the guys have said, the girls will get the opportunity to play at St James's straight after the 2 games on the Saturday with a 6 o'clock kickoff. Be interesting to see how many stay on to watch it. But that's football. We'll rejoice that the game's back and the season's about to start again. That's what's all matter. And as for what you said, Keith, it's known as the silly season. It's the press's silly season. They've got nothing else to write about, so they come up with, as you described, horse shit like that.
Yeah, this is a big, not just for Newcastle, Mitch, but it's a big day for Sela, isn't it? It's their debut at the ground, and they're going to want to make this quite spectacular, I'm sure.
Yeah, look, I'll pick up on a few things here from what everybody said. Firstly, then also what Dad said. I got excited at seeing this because it felt like I believe that the tournament that Barcelona have is the Juan Gamper Trophy at the start of the season. And that has fantastic family memories for me. To see Newcastle United doing something like that says to me we've gone up another level. And that's important. It's really important on the European football stage to be able to attract European teams to our ground for a pre-season tournament and say, come and play. Sela are obviously flexing their connections. They've already got connections in Spain. They've got the regional rights for La Liga, and they do a lot of things here in Dubai with the here. Actually, I'm at Robson Sports City. Across the road is the La Liga football academy, and Sela have got a lot to do with that. And you're right, you're going to see what Sela are all about. We've seen what Sela are all about in Riyadh. They can do it. They can do this. And I think you might get a taste of potentially some sort of makeshift fan zone beforehand. It wouldn't surprise me to see them really try and pull out the stops to say, hey, we're here. This is what we do. With regards to Sela sponsorship, I've seen a few questions and one so-called ITK individual having to go at the iPaper about running the story, even saying, have you been under a rock? Well, the reality is we've released the shirts with the sponsorship on a tentative yes from the Premier League. The Premier League still had the ability to turn around and say, we don't think that's worth 25 million, we think it's worth 15 million. What they've done is now ratified the amount. Now, this links into something we talked about in the professionals last week about why haven't they done any other sponsorship deals? Well, we need a benchmark. This is the benchmark. Now we've got the benchmark, we can talk about, well, hang on a minute, Man City do shirt front for this and stadium for this and training gear for this. Okay, so there's our benchmark. So now some of the things will start to fit together. It's patience. We are being throttled very deliberately, I think, by the Premier League. I think they've taken their time. They've given a tentative yes, but then we've only been able to release a certain amount of shirts with the sponsor's logo on. And then Castoria get the shit for being, well, they don't have enough stock. They still don't have any stock here in Dubai, by the way. I spoke to Sid from Noon yesterday, and he's still waiting for stock for Castoria. But now I'm beginning to think, well, hang on, have they got to get the stock because they've been told print so many with Sela on just in case, you know, and then see where we go. We need this kind of benchmark to then do the other deals. And I think that's, again, because I think it comes back to the Premier League leaking things. Why are people writing stories that say, well, this is a 247% increase on the shirt front sponsorship, instead of calling it as it is, it's an increase from 7 million to 25 million? Because it sounds worse. It sounds like we're doing things against the rules. And so we still remain the bogeyman in the cupboard. We still remain the terrible people that are ruining football with money, while Arsenal are spending money hand over fist and nothing said about it. You know, we are being throttled. This is the reality. And that's why we have to make every move under FFP has to be the right move. We can't afford an expensive football. And so everything is being done in a certain way to build things towards a certain point. And I think this is an opportunity for Sela to show what they're worth to us and what they're worth to everybody in the region. I'm genuinely excited by it, and I'm trying to work out a way to try and get back for that couple of weeks, but I don't think it's going to happen. Let's say we work and things like that. But either way, I think we should all be excited by it, because now we have a platform that is genuinely a platform we can launch from, because we've got a benchmark, because we've got things we can measure other things against. And then once we can measure other things against that benchmark, the Premier League can say jack shit. They can leak what they want to the press. They can leak any numbers they want to the press. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And so we're doing it right. We're doing it proper, the way everybody said they were going to do it. And so this is where we're at. We're at a very different position within the space of a couple of weeks. Yes, it's been frustrating. Yes, we've got to get frustrated with lack of signings, lack of details on sponsorships, and where's my tractor partner and all of that kind of thing. It'll all come in time and it'll all be right. And again, it'll be right. And nothing can see it nobody can see a damn thing about it.
Somebody asking if we're going to get a Sela drone. I presume that's something that they do at other events, Mitch.
Yeah, they do all sorts of things, mate. They're quite inventive and quite innovative. We were in the boulevard in Riyadh when we were out in Riyadh, and some of the things that were going on there, you know, some of it borrowed from here in Dubai, dancing fountains and things like that. But at the end of the day, it's putting on a spectacle, it's putting on a show, and that's what they can do. Ignore some of the white noise and the chaff about who they are and what they kind of do. They've been doing shit like this in the region for a long time. They know what they're doing. You've got to remember they brought boxing to Saudi, and that was, again, to put it into context. People don't realise bringing boxing to the Arabic world was a huge thing, because boxing was seen as uncouth out here. They were more interested in things like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and MMA with mixed martial arts and things like that, where you could mix what you were doing. Boxing was seen as brutal. To get a boxing match put on in Saudi, and now to get multiple boxing matches put on in Saudi, it's a massive thing, and Sela were behind that.
Okay, interesting. I haven't seen that, Kevin, but I'm going to catch up with the Newcastle United website stuff and the social media stuff soon. But yeah, it doesn't surprise us. Trippier's a class act as well. You know what I mean? He's it's great, great to see that.
It's a brilliant piece of video. I've got to say I've seen it, and typical Trips. He's there with the lad, and it couldn't be better. There's an even better bit of a video about Tonali, though, when he was hunting houses in the next door garden to one of the houses he visited. There was a little lad in a black and white strip kicking a ball into his goal, and he hiked over the fence and started to play with him, and it's lovely. Absolutely lovely. If anybody wants to see what the real Tonali's like, really, that's lovely.
That's somebody. Certain accounts on Twitter will tell you he's totally unhappy to be here.
Yeah, he doesn't want to be here. Yeah. Well, it's really worth looking for. Really worth looking for. I enjoyed that today. I really did.
There was no mention of it. If that ball comes over my wall once more,
opening a big shed with loads of balls in. Yeah.
Yeah.
For those of you who are cricket fans, Australia are 92 for 4. The lead by 181 runs. It's been an interesting last hour. I'm keeping an eye on it. Yeah, but they've got to make sure that they don't just fall back into the way they've been in these last 2 games. So let's fingers crossed they can get another couple of quick wickets before the end of the day. Okay, let's talk about this. Jersey Mag says, how come not providing football shirts and stock to a football club, not a breach of contract? I guess what he's talking about here is there's been stuff on, there has been stuff on social media, a photograph of what is genuinely looks like, anyway, potentially the third strip, the blue strip. It's a kid's size strip, and it's available in Sports Direct, Keith. I think we've discussed this a few times now. We do know that Mike Ashley certainly left a few, a few grenades, shall we say, around the club, a few little caveats. He certainly made sure that he got his pound of flesh before he left. We don't know the exact truth behind this particular picture, but it certainly looks like the third strip, and it looks like Sports Direct may have it before anybody else. But yeah, it's a strange one, isn't it? We're not surprised about Mike Ashley and these little things that he's done.
It's it'd be criminal if Newcastle as a football club have any deals in place whereby a third party can sell their product before them, full stop. And if I can't imagine there's deals in writing that are there that wouldn't have been taken in due diligence in buying the company. So even though it was bought quite quickly, I still don't believe that any liabilities, part of buying a company, you get access to every agreement you've signed, and you get access to the liabilities that you're taking on, because you can't just take a company over tomorrow and not know exactly what you are legally responsible for. One of those things will be the contract for, is it Tedexo for beer and food in the ground? And then the next one is who's got the rights to supply all the product that Newcastle buy. Those contracts are being combed over. And one of them being looked at very, very extensively would be the shirt contract. And it's been said in various corridors that it's not a great deal in our favour. It's also been rumoured that some of Mike Ashley's family is possibly a board director of Castori, but there can't be any deal stacks up on paper whereby you sell a company, Newcastle United, to another party, and in that agreement, your chain of sports shops will get access and release of the jersey that belongs to Newcastle United. It couldn't be written or put out like that, because it would stand out like a sore thumb. The lawyers would pick it up and they'd reverse it. So what I prefer to say is that what's probably happened is there is some leverage in Castori from Mike Ashley's group, and they've played a card and done something and put an order in. It might be a huge pre-order, and they've said, "Can you release it on a particular day?" And they've pulled it fast and got it out quicker than the shops. But it's wrong. It's wrong from kids who go to Newcastle's own shops to buy football equipment, football kit, and they're getting told that you can get cheaper down the road. It is a massive coup for Mike Ashley if he's pulled this off, but surreal. And what it does, it would spell short-termism into that agreement that Castori's got in favour with the club, because we know that it's a difficult deal to end. We're told that most deals have a period, especially when you're manufacturing shirts for somebody. So there's a period what it's got to run to. But the rumour is this is quite excessive, and it's been written strongly in the favour of Castori and was signed off by the old owner before the new owners bought it. But uncanny. And then you see what's happened this week with Leicester, where they've been playing silly buggers with JD over shirts. And that is something that Mike Ashley fought with JD about years ago. So I don't know. It's everywhere you look in this game, there's so much money in it. And when there's money anywhere, you get something called corruptness, which creeps in.
Yeah, Paul Regret says it's a training top, George. So it may well be. A lot of people making a big fuss about it. And as I say, we don't know what that top is. We just know it's on sale in Sports Direct. But the Castori story is going to rumble for some time. I think we've just all got to accept that, that's one of those things we're going to have to get used to until that deal comes to an end. Unfortunately, this is where we're at. And at least we can say that the tops are okay, if you can get one.
Well, which tops? Because this morning I'm seeing people on Twitter saying that the badges are coming off when they wash them, that sort of thing. So it's a mess. Whatever way you describe it, the Castori thing is a total mess. And if this is right, that Ashley's got this, even if it's a training shirt, don't care what sort of top it is. If he's got that before the club shop and before club supporters have got them, then that's just two fingers up to everybody, which is not untypical, sadly, of Mike Ashley, is it? We got used to that throughout. You do a big interview and say you're going to do better, and what you really do is bloody worse than what you were doing before. So, we're used to what Mike Ashley's up to. The only trouble is that he gets away with it and he makes money out of it, and that's the golden thing. But the quicker that the club bites the bullet with this Castori thing, the better. I don't know how. They're obviously tied into something. Otherwise, I think they'd be gone. But it's just a mess. It's just a total mess, Steve.
Yeah, Steve, it's no wonder probably people go to alternative places to buy these tops, because it just seems to cause so much hassle. But the Castori deal is clearly one which we've just got to suck it now and see and wait until we can eventually put that wrong right, I guess.
Yeah, we have to suffer it and suck it because the club have to as well, by all accounts. I think it's simple as that. There's not all the shout in the world won't do bring about any change because it's obviously a legally binding contract that Castori have with Newcastle United FC. Not necessarily Newcastle United FC's new owners, it's Newcastle United FC. So that's where it sits. As for quality issues, well, the quality issues lie with Castori. badges coming off, logos at the front coming off, the Sela logo, etc. Well, that's quality control. That's down to a company, and I know because I worked in the industry. That's down to poor choice of vinyl that they're using. It's down to poor application. It's down to the wrong heat. It's down to the wrong time. It's wrong. It's using the wrong particular vinyl for the material, and that usually comes about because you're cutting corners. You go for the cheapest. You go for the cheapest print vinyl, and there are print vinyls out there that are designed specifically for polyester. And in this case, obviously, if it's coming off in the wash, then it's either not being pressed long enough, not being pressed hard enough, or it's the wrong thing in the first place. So there's your quality control. So if people have an issue with it, take your goods back to the club, and you'll be entitled to either a refund or an exchange. And the more people who do that, and the more things that are sent back, then the more the quality issues get looked at, and gives Castoria a headache, gives the club a headache, gives everybody a bad name, and then things have to be done about it. That's the way that the consumer needs to operate, and that's the way fans. If you've got issues, take them back, and make a stink and get them exchanged.
When you go back, just say to people at the counter that you've been advised that under the Sale of Goods Act, this isn't fit for purpose, and I'm entitled to a full refund. They'll always try and give you another shirt back, but if you do accept a refund or a return shirt, sit and go through it. Just say, get the one out you propose to give us, and let us inspect it and go through it chapter and nail. But always remember, just say Sale of Goods Act, it's not fit for purpose, and then
Yeah, good point. Good point. Well made, Mitch. Yeah, I mean, we touched a little bit with the story there before, but it's just, a lot of people have a lot to say about Custori, don't they? Really.
Let us give you a little, maybe a different aspect on this, and it's going to be probably contrary to some of the things we've heard. My understanding is the deal with Custori is less in terms of money up front, but more in terms of percentage of shirt sales. And therefore, it's not as bad as it may seem on the face of it. I've spoken to people in the blockchain and supply part of everything here. I've obviously spoken to people at noon recently who are still waiting for their stock, by the way. Still waiting for a reply to their email, by the way. So, a lot of the things sit on Custoria for a number of reasons. The quality control is obviously pish. You talk to people out here. I've spoken to Wolves fans out here who are absolutely fed up with getting stuff sent with the badge stuck on upside down. That's the thing they keep doing to Wolves, apparently. I've spoken to Rangers fans who are fed up with getting fleeces, which have got Rangers badges on the thing, but then Wolves on the zipper. And these things are quality control issues. And that's their problem, and it reflects on everybody who uses them. My understanding, there is absolutely no connection between Mike Ashley and Custori in terms of direct involvement. However, they do share a lot of supply and blockchain stuff, and therefore he can have an influence about where stock goes. It doesn't surprise me that both Sports Direct seem to have stock ahead of the club shop. JD Sports apparently have our professional version of the shirt in stock already before the club shop does. But this is the influence that JD Sports and Sports Direct have on the whole sportswear picture in the UK. Yeah. The problem that we have in the UK in austere times, I will never criticise anybody for going to Sports Direct. You tell a mum in the Meadowell that to go anywhere other than where you can get all three of your kids a pair of trainers each for 10 quid. I'm sorry, I'm not going to criticise anybody for going there. It's not the time to do that. It's not the times to do that. However, it is frustrating that it is what it is. Are we stuck with the Custoria deal? From what I understand, they looked at buying them out and it wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth what somebody like Adidas would pay to come in and take it over, because we would lose money, we wouldn't gain money, and that would affect FFP. So part of it is we're kind of in an arranged marriage that we have to make work. And I think we need a little bit more effort. Personally, I would like some input and some voice from Custori not just Newcastle United. Newcastle United bear the criticism because it's got our badge on it. But Castoria should be doing more, in my opinion, to correct this. And it would be nice to hear something from them. Well, everybody wants to load Andy Murray at Wimbledon. Remember, he's one of the major shareholders in Castoria. It's his company.
Is there any chance of any chance of a divorce from this arranged marriage?
No, mate. I gather we've looked at it, and to buy it out, nobody like Adidas or Nike will pay the amount of money to buy them out because it'll end up costing Newcastle United 200 million or something. It's a ridiculous amount of money.
Divorces and arranged marriage only work one way, don't they, Mitch?
Yeah, absolutely. And so we maybe just have to suck it up for a little bit. It'll be sorted eventually. And if you want to look at Adidas, for example, or tell you what, let's have a look at Nike. If you look at what they've served our lovely neighbours down the road this week in terms of home strip and away strip, something that is barely red and white striped and something that looks like it was done on an acid trip. I don't think I would be happy with either of those for our kits, and so everybody clamouring for big companies and big names. I would rather personally try and sit down with Castoria and say, look, your QC is crap, your delivery is crap, your ability to get stock is crap. If you can sort all these things out and sit down with us and come up with really decent shirt designs, because the one thing I'm not hearing anybody saying is that the shirt designs are shit. They're actually quite like them. And so there's something to work with there. But we really, really, really need, it needs to be, we need input from Castoria now to say, look, we recognise what we're doing wrong and we want to put this right for Newcastle United Football Club as they go into the Champions League. And something like that is necessary, in my opinion.
Well, I think them ones down the road that Sunderland's got, I think they're very good designs. I've liked Nike more after I saw them designs. I thought they were...
Cruel man. You know what? You've hit an interesting route there, Mitch, because what we're saying, you know, and I said it as well. You know, raise your voice with Castoria, but raise your voice with the club as well. But how do you raise your voice with the club? Well, the club used to have a fans forum. Maybe it's the club's new system of inviting 100 fans along and having a chat with them and meeting with Darren Eales. Maybe those are the sort of things that the fans who meet with Darren Eales and meet with Silverstone and meet with whoever else turns up at these functions should be raising on behalf of their fellow fans, because that's the only way. Because we can have podcasters and videocasters and people who stand outside the ground who can moan and groan about not being able to get it or the quality of it. But if that's as far as it goes and it doesn't go any further, it's a pointless exercise. So it needs to be raised at the right level. Well, we're talking to the club.
It's quite clear part of the problem is Castoria started quite literally with Andrew Murray and two of his mates running a company out of their mum's spare bedroom. Yeah. And they were drop shipping. And they've barely moved on from that at the moment, and that's the problem. Is we have a company that now are supplying England cricket. I don't know if you've seen the picture of the Irish women's team lining up in their anthem jackets, and they've got the Sky logo printed upside down. Yeah. Classic Castoria. Hey,
it's manufactured abroad, and someone who can't read English who's producing it and prints it.
Yes.
Just handed a logo, gets handed upside down, so they're printed upside down, and that's why the Wolves badge is like that, because you can't differentiate between whether it's the right way up.
Honestly, do you know what? If it was one, I would just dismiss it. But I've spoken to the Wolves Supporters Club over here, and they've shown me, I think in excess of 20 pieces of kit where the Wolves badge is upside down. It's just like, it's not even, it is funny because it's not us. But, it's like, this is your kit. This is your club's kit. And then it's no wonder people go to places like DHK. You know, we've got access to something called Lazada here, which is basically the Philippines version of DHK. And when I see what you can get for 20 quid off there, it's ridiculous. You can get old school shirts with Shearer 9 on the back. You know, and you can't tell them apart from the real I Am. It's really difficult. You know, it's and I can totally understand why people do that.
I just want to say that other snide top manufacturers are available.
Yes, they are.
As always, we have plenty to get through on this show, and because of the extent of and the amount of tweets of the week that we get, I'm going to revert back to putting that on before we put on Day I Met. So here we go, tweet of the week. And in case it's escaped anyone's mind this week, we have signed a new player, and Sandro Tonali. I saw the stories in the media about me crying when I heard AC Milan had accepted a bid. You can bet your last bowl of spaghetti, bolognese, I was crying with happiness to be joining Eddie Howe's Mags. Milan is decent, but not a patch on the tune. Plus, I can get a pepperoni pizza down the big market and a pint of Peroni for half the price. This one, it said on the telly today, talk to your local dealer about the latest Toyota hybrid. So I rang Darren, he knew nothing about it. That didn't tickle me, that one, lads. It's a good one.
Oh, God, you've got me with that one.
When your new girlfriend tells us you used to have a chopper, you just hope it was one of these.
That's mine.
Thanks, Keith. And congratulations to my nephew on his graduation. That's him on the left.
The one on the right's not bad either.
No wrong with George sides these days, folks.
See where Mitch gets it from, mate.
You can. Only a Star Wars fan will see this.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's mad,
I love them. And wow, you are drunk. Oh, yeah. How can you tell? You live next door. I think even Stu and Mitch wouldn't like this drink.
I don't imagine I won't like
And every year Susan goes on holiday with her flatmate.
Oh God.
These have become popular. Celebrity football stickers, Frank Spencer, real Betty's.
Yeah.
And Charlie says, if you support any team here, you probably have nits and stink of piss. Thanks, Stephen Kennedy. Name that song. Play that funky music.
That's good.
White boy.
And a little known fact about England footballer Danny Welbeck. His dad was a bomb disposal expert called Stan.
Stan Welbeck.
Tip, if you think you're hungry, you might just be thirsty. Have a beer first and then see how you feel. That's definitely one from the Mitch Penman book of excuses.
Dougie.
And this one, it's a photographic one, but it's a good one. And bear with us because I'm going to have to load a couple of these other ones on because I don't want. There's some absolute belters this week, folks. And I don't
Dougie Morris is on a mission.
Dougie Morris has been in full effect, hasn't he? He really has.
Messing me 3 times a day with these.
Well, he does, doesn't he? Yeah. Okay. Next up is this one. Is this enough time for Newcastle United to win the league and cup double? That was on the response to where the sun has got 8 billion years left.
Yes.
And Toon Poles, write a tweet about any club other than your own, then play bingo with the replies. Rattled, obsessed, forcing a rivalry, crying, tears, head loss, stay in your lane, oil money, horse punchers, so lazy. Yes. Maybe you should move to threads, Toon Poles. This one's a good one. Noel fielding, and Noel batting, and Noel bowling.
Very clever.
And when you're too lazy to microwave your own dinner.
That's true.
That's right. No, that food in there.
And Lee Johnson, hi, Keith Downey. If you get a chance to ask Tonali a question, can you ask him if he's ever seen a Macam in Milan, just to cement your status as one of us? Thanks in advance. Such a pity I've exceeded my rate limit. I was just going to buy an extendable baton, a redesigned bra, and a super powerful torch that can burn paper, then boom, rate limited. That's Sunday ruined. And that was Jed's response to the fact that some of the most bizarre things have come up on Twitter in this last week as Elon Musk self-destructs the once proud social media platform. Khloe Kardashian's hands look like the hands of what I imagine lives under my bed and grabs my ankles in my sleep, says Ella.
Look at
Lordy.
Yeah. Good to see He-Man is in the Keith Patterson and Steve Wraith fan club. And, Stephanie wasn't too happy when she was suggested that she might want to join the boring group. Bloody fuming, just knocked over me Sports Direct mug of tea. And I love this. NUFC Joe says, even in this picture, every one of them is in the correct position. Pep Guardiola really is the best man.
I like that.
Big shout out to Zara, who supplies a lot of the tweets. Elon is messing up Twitter worse than Mike Ashley messed up Newcastle United. And how to prepare for a Zoom meeting. Is this you? I was asked. The cat sellotaped to the wall. A picture from back in the day. That's great, isn't it? KK on his Harley.
Brilliant.
Absolutely amazing.
And transfers in Newcastle news are much more fun when I used to go to this exact pitch on a daily basis for my Ronnie Gill Newcastle United fix.
Absolutely.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Good old days, lads. Look at all them stars, Dale. What do you think it all means? It means somebody stole our tent. And Grandpa, what are you doing on the porch with no pants on? Well, last week I sat out there with no shirt on and I got a stiff neck. This is your grandma's idea.
Oh, God.
The Ass family, Wayne Bennett spotted this in a car. Jackass, smart ass, lazy ass, kiss ass, and dumb ass. Very good. Best book ever, How to Sleep.
Well, it's working.
And Freddie, after entering my dreams and seeing stuff he wasn't mentally equipped to deal with. I love that. Another one of those Dougie Morris classics.
Oh, yeah.
And let's not forget the Seagulls. Another photo from the past. Know you like the old Newcastle strips, lads, and also that silver strip. So here's Tony Cunningham back in the day.
Yes.
Can you name the player next to him, lads?
It's Killer.
It's
Killer.
Kilcline.
Brian Kilcline, of course. Yes, making a little appearance again on NUFC Matters. So that was good. This one, warning, you're at Skinny Dicks, halfway in. We do have adult humour. Boobs, titties, dicks, penis, happy bears, bears screwing, alcohol, booze, smoking, carcinogenic toxins, foul language, fuck shit, and lots more. Enter at your own risk. Albert said it was an inappropriate venue for a family lunch. And I presume the people here make excellent milkshakes. And Paul Whitfield wanted to know why the new manager was wearing handcuffs.
Spot on that.
And undress me with words, this young lady says. You have a spider in your bra. What a romantic guy. Haven't had one of these from Ian for a while. Mexican word of the day, I smoker. I have a bad memory because I smoke a lot of weed.
Oh, dear me.
Oh.
Mum said alcohol's your enemy. Jesus said love your enemy. Case closed. Cheers. And when you have two Brazilian internationals in your starting 11.
That's brilliant.
Oh, yes.
Great photo.
Clever.
Great photo.
Clever.
Vegans need to lay off others for their eating habits. The last thing we need is another spinach inquisition.
Oh,
good one.
And here's Alan Clark with Alan Ball.
Sniffer.
Bit like the Beardsley one, that isn't it, from Mexico?
Yeah.
That is.
One scene.
And tweet of the week from Andy Ambleton. He says, "Yep, there's a problem. You need a new belt."
Yep.
Let's not forget that time Andy Murray took his granddad to Wimbledon in his bag.
He's just been knocked out of Wimbledon, by the way.
Oh dear.
That's a really cast story for you.
It is. Every time we talk, I get wet. Do I arouse you? No, you spit when you talk.
Right.
And well, there's plenty more fish in the sea. Blimey, with that bait, you'll never catch anything.
Well, the old postcards.
And this guy's going to come off with a little bit of a problem, I think, if he pulls that cord.
Oh, yes.
And the doctor suggested he start doing squats, so he's moved all the beer to the bottom shelf of the fridge. And adult nursery time. Debbie's are red and violets are blue. Hasty don't wear them, and neither does Stew. Gosh, Stephen Kennedy. Liam's been tangoed, said the Mags Gaz. And last couple, I love the old stuff, as you know. How are the lads? This was sent to us this week. There's bloody Lord Westwood. Dear God.
Yeah.
The Barry Brothers, whose new recording, How Are the Lads, is now available. Price 50p from Newcastle United Promotions. Pictured above with Chairman Lord Westwood. Dear God. Wonder if anyone's got a copy of that. Pinch this, but wondered what you and everybody else would pick from their 90s Heinz tinned puddings. Mine would have to be treacle. I've got to be honest, I wasn't one for these, but if it was me, I would have taken sticky toffee. Lads?
Treacle.
George?
Sticky toffee.
Mitch?
None of them hate them.
Yeah. And Steve, what did you say?
Ice cream.
Sticky toffee.
Sticky toffee for you as well. Okay. Tweet of the week. Winner is this one. Last time England reached a European under-21 final was in 2009 when they lost to Germany. 6 of Germany's squad went on to win the World Cup. 7 of England's went on to play for Sunderland. Great stuff as always, Zara. Thank you so much for sending them in. Thanks to everybody who pinged this on Twitter. Keep them coming. We will feature as many as we can next week. Okay, I managed to go 47 minutes, lads, without mentioning it, but I can see the people mentioning it in the chat. We'll have to talk about it, a little bit about tickets. Hursty is not very happy. The ticketing system and box office are a joke again. It's embarrassing. I have seen quite a few comments on Twitter this week. People not happy. People now complaining that they can't get tickets for the big tournament that's just been announced. Now there's an email come through today, which Steve relayed about, the fact that they invite certain supporters up, to discuss these things. They've now launched one for an away tickets, which certain people will go to. I've not bothered applying to go because clearly I'm not going to get the opportunity to go. So Keith, it's the box office, isn't it? I think personally that the club do need to sort it out. It's clear that there is an issue with the system. It's not working, and it's going to get worse with more demand. So ultimately they will change things, I think. And the away ticket thing is going to be interesting because they are probably going to risk upsetting a lot of people if they decide, for example, and I'm not saying this is what they're going to do, but they could decide to say we're going to scrap the loyalty system. They're going to have to do something, and especially with being in the Champions League as well. They're going to have to adapt another system. We had Melly on at the back end of last season telling us what Manchester United do. They've got a different system for Champions League than they do for other things. So, just in general, people are complaining about the ticket office again. What's your views, Keith? What would you like to see happen? Anything?
I don't think in a club the way ours is progressing. Like you said earlier, Mitch is confirmed that in the Far East. So the Middle East, there's so much positivity and marketing prowess and well-executed campaigns by the likes of Sela and the Newcastle partner. So they're not going to have, for example, a Sela tournament where the tickets are a nightmare and where there's negative publicity. Somebody's head will roll, somebody will be moved out, and new people will be moved in. I'm told that there are lots of changes going on behind the scenes. There's rumours that the Newcastle have been advertising for staff for the food and drink. So, if you were in 1892 or anywhere in the Melbourne stand last year, some of the bars you could serve 3 times more than what they get through. It's like watching somebody who will has perfected the art of making a pint froth over the top. You just watch and think, you know, if I give you a pint glass and told you to do that again, you'd struggle. And the place is difficult. So if you've got that on tickets, which is bread and butter stuff, and which is, you know, you get a lot more money selling a ticket than selling a pint, they'll change it, you know. So I've got no doubts. I'm surprised that some of the changes haven't come in already, but there's other things to consider as well. And Steve touched on it earlier when he said, you know, for example, Steve Ray's not saying this is going to happen. He's just saying, let's imagine they cancel the loyalty points. Well, there'll be uproar, you know, like there'll be an uproar because a lot of fans are precious about the attendance before we got the takeover, and things like the supporters club that they've I can't say endorsed, but they've been very supportive of, and they've met them at the club, and I think the club see good things in the supporters club form. But that's based on people going to away games and using their transport because they've already got so many points and they know they're going to get the away games. So some of the subjects, such as ticketing for away games, I think is micey, and I think it's risky. And if I was consulting people on that, I would go to people like the supporters club, because they're the people who actively travel and actively get big numbers to all their events. But if I was doing something like the ticket office itself and saying that's a going, there are rumours that there's people in the ticket office looking at the whole setup. But clearly, you know, a friendly ticket's gone on sale before they've got it right. But they can't keep going on making these mistakes. You can't keep going on selling shirts where embroidery comes off and badges fall off. You can't keep on letting people stand for 20 minutes at half time to order a basic pint. You can't just have people queuing up 30,000 to buy 2,000 or 3,000 tickets for a game. You've got to change. You've got to embrace change. And for me, with PIF's involvement, I think that the whole organisation at Newcastle will be monitoring what's going on, will be taking note of what's being put out on air. And I think that even if story deals are difficult, lawyers will tell you that there are cases, and it'll be written in any contract, where you can get out on performance and you can get out on the goods not being of merchantable quality. So there will be ways to break deals. And if the rumour's right, and we've changed Sodexo and we've got our own catering in next season, brilliant. But you know, to me, it starts with basic things like who makes the shirts, how good are the shirts, how available are the shirts, right? Who sells the tickets, how much are the tickets, and how do I get one? And if you don't get them two basic things right on your own shirts and your own tickets, you're knackered. So I would suggest there'll be people in high places looking at all these things now.
What's your thoughts, George?
Well, it's so fundamental and so straightforward a computer issue, this business about doing tickets online and all the rest of it, that I can't believe that they can't find somebody to put it right very quickly. I mean, it strikes me it's probably an undergraduate computer studies student's task could probably do it in a couple of days. It's just ridiculous that they're still faffing about like this with people waiting in queues of 700, 800 in front of them. That just, you know, that can't go on much longer. It's got to come to an end. And the other thing, Keith mentioned the catering. Well, I know that the hiring catering staff, because my nephew's got a job, and what I'm pleased to hear is they've upped what they pay them as well to something which is reasonable. So there are things happening which are positive, but just still too many things at this stage that aren't going right. And I do wonder if we're talking about the bombs that Ashley left around the place. Well, I wonder if some of the staff in the ticketing office shouldn't be there anymore. You know, they got used to doing it with the way they used to do it with Ashley and co. And it's time to root some of them out, because it's not good. I mean, if it was a theatre or anything like that, there would be hell on. And this is a major sporting venue. You know, it's just not right for it to be like that. the other thing about the catering is that it makes me smile because Neil and I used to go with 8 other mates, Neil. And it was when Ashley started to play around with the catering, that's when they all started to drop off and say, well, we're not coming back till he's gone. Unfortunately, they can't get back now because the tickets is gone. But it was the messing about with the catering was the start of a big change for us. And I wouldn't like to see anything like that happening again. If it goes in-house again, well, fine, but make sure the quality's right. We don't want to be like I think Neil might remember. We used to go in and have our dinner before the match, and everybody, quite a few, used to like their fish and chips and mushy peas. And then the signs start to come when it said, "No, you can't have mushy peas because Ashley won't buy the container to put them in." And now that was the start of the beginning of the end, you know. So don't want any more of that. But the ticketing office thing, to me, and I could be wrong, but is a simple piece of computer magic that any skilled computer artist should be able to put right.
Okay, Steve, we've been down this road so many times. I mean, it does our head in, I guess. Probably does the people watching, but we do have to cover it because people do want to talk about it. There's still clearly some unhappy people in the chat. So yeah, just give us your views, mate.
Maybe they should direct the questions to the people who are at the ticketing meeting, because they obviously told the club it was working fine, because obviously there was no feedback that went to the club in terms of the club's explanation of how the ticket system was going to work and their guarantees, etc. And everybody walked out the meeting. Bearing in mind, we never ever hear anything that was actually spoken about in these meetings, but obviously fans that attended the ticketing meeting were convinced it was going to work, and now it's been proved that it's struggling, it's fallen over. So the first thing I would say, one of the reasons why it's fallen over is they haven't got the membership scheme in place yet. So reading some of the comments down the side, people struggling to get tickets for the rest of the family because apparently they're not members. So there's obviously something within the ticketing system that says you've got to be a member to be able to buy tickets at this particular point. But there is no membership scheme out at the moment. So you can't be a member. So there straight away, there's a conflict. Simple. So the question is, who set up a ticketing system for a friendly that requires, if you want additional tickets and you're a season ticket holder, but you want to buy tickets for your family, and again, they've given presumably priority season ticket holders first, but then to do the tag on, but it's not allowing them to do. So they've made what should be a very simple process difficult for the front end, for the consumer, for the buyer, for the person who's trying to get tickets for this game. And let's face it, we know that the demand for these two games will come from families wanting to go along who probably wouldn't be able to normally take their kids along to a Premier League game and certainly a Champions League game. So that's the first issue. Now, let's take the next issue that's been mentioned already about the catering. Well, one of the problems we've got with the catering is they've got a load of 16 and 17-year-old kids who have never, ever worked in an environment that demands mass service at 15 minutes, a 15-minute interval to serve 5,000 or 6,000 or 4,000 people who all want a pint, who all want a pie, who all want a chip butty and whatever. So that they haven't got the experience. So what they do is they stand and they'll pour a pint and then they'll walk. The catering people also don't have enough tills. You stand at one till and there's a machine that you're supposed to zap for the pay because it's card only now, but there's only one between four of them. So there's all of that type of organisation. It's disorganisation by the people in charge. People who have basically just filled up an area with staff and said, there's the product. They stand behind this counter and serve people. And at the end of the day, they couldn't care less how many pints are sold or how many people walk away because they're not geared up for it. So it's like paying lip service to you. I mean, the number of times that Keith and I have walked away and said, let's not bother. I've been with you, Steve, when we've done exactly the same. Let's not bother with a drink now. It's pointless because there's only 5 minutes left and we're going to miss 10 minutes of the game if we're standing there supping a pint. So there's all of that. There's no queuing system. There's everything about it is just shambolically organised. It doesn't take a genius to put some organisation into it. But first of all, you've got to observe what the problem is before you can put the problem right. And there's nobody willing to take responsibility, whether it's responsibility of the tickets or responsibility for the catering and that sort of service. But maybe again, how does the club get the feedback about this? Because if everything's contracted out, then those people aren't going to go back and say, by the way, we've only sold this, we've only sold that. And let's face it, the club's not that bothered because they've already got the contract. They've already taken their 30 pieces of silver off them and allow them to, they just run on the profit themselves. So if it's coming back in-house, then it's going to be massive pressure on the club to make sure that they do it properly, whether they've got the brains behind the system and behind the scenes for people who can actually look at the service that's been provided, spot what's going wrong and do it and put it right. And I'll give you an example, Steve. We've got a friend whose son was at the match and the beer ran out, the pump, it needed changing. And there was nobody there behind the bar who knew how to change the barrel. And he volunteered and was accepted. Yeah, will you come back? Because he worked in a pub and he changed the barrel for them. That's the sort of things that go on at St. James's Park. Can you imagine in the Strawberry if the pints went off? We need to change the barrel, and Caroline just stood there and goes, "Oh, I've got nobody here. Steve, could you go and change the barrel for me?" "Oh, aye, I'll do that for you." No, it doesn't happen because the pub itself is geared up. And let's face it, you can be 4 or 5 deep at the bar in the Strawberry and you can still get served in 2 minutes. You can be 4 or 5 deep in the bar at St. James's Park. You can guarantee you won't get a pint if you're in the 4th or 5th row. It's just comes down to organisation and knowledge and the ability to be able to put processes in place that work for us, the customer, on a match day. And there's nobody there willing to do it.
And just as a warning, people, if anyone finds themselves in that situation and they see me and ask me to do it, please don't. I've got the combined look of Frank Spencer and Selwyn Froggatt. So essentially, you'll end up with a bar flood if I change a barrel, and nobody will have any.
I think it was like a lager Bukkake, I seem to remember.
That's exactly what it would be, mate, yes. Yeah, tickets, Mitch. We've been down this road many times on this platform.
Of course, and for me, it just reflects everything that the new owners inherited. Big onus on Darren Eales, his team, the new supporters liaison officer, and down from there to try and get things into place. When genuinely they've been left with the square root of football, if you pardon my language. You know, that's what they were left with. And so it's really very difficult to come at it from an angle where you want to be super critical, but at the same time, that's what the club have inherited and that's what they've got. And they need to listen. And what worries me is are they listening? Are they listening to the right people? The final allocation fiasco would suggest to me they're not necessarily always listening to the right people. We need root and branch overhaul of so many things within the club. And I think, you know, ticketing is very much one of them. And it'll always be a sore point while there remains not enough tickets to give to the people that want to get to the games. You can't do right for doing wrong sometimes either. And so I don't envy the position that they've got. I don't want to sound overcritical because I know some of the things they're trying to do for expat fans are fantastic. But I know that might also piss you off as a fan in Newcastle. And they're walking a very, very, very fine line with some things. And so what I don't want them to do is try and be all things to all people, because that'll fail. That always fails. You can't. You've got to put sometimes some hard lines in places and say, well, that's it. And that's our decision. As the club, that's our decision, and that's what we're sticking with. I don't see enough boards or leadership to do that yet with something like ticketing. And that's what we need. And so it takes somebody who's going to really genuinely get this by the throat and take control of it. And good luck to them.
The thing you've just said there, though, Mitch, you made a good point that they've been brilliant with expats. So that's a decision that somebody's made. So expats being people who live outside the area, live abroad, and they do great things with them. But there's equally people who, people
who live on the doorstep or are not being heard.
Yeah,
you're right.
And so
you're absolutely right.
What about the fan who says, "I want my granddad to go to a game for his birthday"? Who do I write to? Who do I apply to? And they get told on social media to go to, NUFC tickets and NUFC spares and places like that. But the reality is, and we've sat and seen crowds of people who spoke to them and said, "Oh, how do you get here?" "Oh, I've got 30 tickets." And they've got into games, big games, Liverpool games, Man United games, Spurs game, where there's crowds of people that don't go, but they got in touch and said they were coming over, and they've got this big batch of tickets. But that's where places like the Supporters Club and things like that are helpful.
But that's because there's nothing official.
There's nothing
there's nothing official. And that's why we as fans, people like Darren at the NUFC, is filling a void that the club should have been filling long before him.
Yeah, or
reaching out to him and saying, "We need this, and can we work with you?
Will you help us sort it?" But my point I'm saying is when you say they've been great expats, there's that to a lot of local people, and I see loads of people send me DMs and what can I do? And they say, I'm desperate to get me dad who's not very well to a game. I'll take any ticket, and they're not looking for 10 or 20 or 30 tickets. They're looking for one. No. Two together. So there's nobody at the club to talk to, and that's why I think the likes of Darren at NUSC or somebody similar to him might get invited up to play a role because like somebody said earlier, at the cup final, there were nothing.
That's what Darren Eales and his team sort out. That's what it should be. As a man who built a club from zero in Atlanta, that should be his remit, and he should have the ability and the nous to sort that out.
Yeah. A club like Newcastle United should not be relying on an independent supporters group as a liaison point with supporters. That's the point we're getting at, isn't it, Mitch? It's
absolutely. That's succinctly right. Yes.
For me, I've got more faith in the independent supporters group than I have on some others. But that's
but that's because we know how this works. We know how this game plays. We've all got the bloody script. We've seen the previous film. We know how the remake will go.
But what I'm saying is, if a fan puts together a really good, genuine case where it's somebody's 70th birthday and they want 2 tickets and they've never been this season, so they'd be better off going to talk to someone like Darren Curry and trying to find a way. But the minute what we're hearing is, I tell you, best off doing moving abroad, and then you've been expat, and you can afford to get your tickets.
Keith, it's not that long ago when me and Steve were in the trust that me and Steve were doing shit like this. And if it wasn't me and Steve, it was Bitter off NUFC.com.
Well, I think YouTube's caused all the mess. Then it's YouTube to blame. But in the meantime, it sounds like what you've got to do is just move house, just get yourself moved abroad because they're brilliant with expats.
Yeah, it's an interesting debate. There we go. We have talked about it. We are going to move on. John, don't worry. He says, Howard, Steve, move on.
Steve.
I was already doing it. But as you know, we always go around the houses. We like to
steady on, Howard.
We like to get everybody's points across, and that's it. Job done. Okay, we're halfway through the show, and as most of you know, that means you can go and get a beer or step outside or pop to the toilet because it is the ads.
A big thanks to all our sponsors: Skips and Bins, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website skipsandbins.com, easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks to Mr. Vicky's sauces, which are handmade in Cumbria. Their website is mrvickies.co.uk. If you want to contact the guys, email info@mrvickies.co.uk or telephone 01768 210 102. Big thanks to New Workwear. They are an agile and dedicated workwear provider launched in 2018. For more information, go to their website, newworkwear.com. Big thanks, as always, to Media Arts for the help with the video side of things. If you want to support the channel, hit the subscribe button, become a subscriber today. Hit the thumb up under the video, which likes the video, and click share to share to your other social media. Click join if you want to become a member of the channel for as little as $1.99, or take a one-off payment for the cult membership. You can get in via this QR code if you've got a smartphone, or look for membership pack on the website, nufcmatters.com. What do you get for your one-off £25 payment? You get a scarf, a pen, and a cup, and a membership card, and entry into the monthly draw. Don't forget, if you want a car sticker, all you need to do is subscribe to the show and then email John at NUFC Matters, and he will post you a free car sticker out. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and other podcast providers. And we also support the food bank on this channel. NUFCfansfoodbank.co.uk is the virtual matchday bucket where you can make a virtual donation 365 days of the year. The new Alan Shearer raffle is on tickets at £1 a ticket. You could win a limited edition signed Alan Shearer ball from the 260 dinner. Enter now at nufcmatters.com. We've got a few events coming up. August the 5th sees Gavin Peacock at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Tickets are £10, and you can get them now from nufcmatters.com. Our Christmas event takes place on the 7th of December at the Tyneside Irish Centre, and that's an evening with Frank Clark. Tickets are £15 and available from nufcmatters.com. Finally, Waddle, Keegan, Beardsley and friends. The class of 84 is on at the Tyne Theatre and Opera House on Westgate Road in Newcastle on Thursday, January the 23rd. Tickets are now available from the Tyne Theatre and Opera House.co.uk or telephone 0844 2491 000. That's the box office telephone number 0844 2491 000.
And the tickets for that have gone very well so far. And that event's not till next year, but don't miss out on the VIPs. Honestly, it's going to be a cracking night. And we have got some special guests coming along who I'll announce a little bit later in the year. Okay, let's talk about football after we've had that little bit of music that you all love so much. The day I met, we'll ask you to send in photographs of you meeting somebody from Newcastle United, past or present. And thanks to Moxie Mag for this one. Maiden-in-law, me on the left with my mate, and Big Philip Albert. The day I met. Look at the jumper. One. Look at the jumper. Look at the cars. Wow. Look at the haircuts. But great stuff. Thanks for sending that in. If you've got a photograph of you with a former Newcastle United player, manager, whatever it is, or a current one, send them in and we will feature you on the show. As you know, we always have our main sponsor, the little dance-off that we have. Big thanks to the lads at New Workwear for being the sponsor of this particular show. Okay, Benny said that there's two cracking England youth internationals joining Newcastle by all accounts, Trevan Sanusi and Divine Mukasa. So I have just checked that out, and that is apparently looking as if it's going to be a done deal. Some more youth coming in. But a couple of things, Keith. Some monkey soup talking about reports of Chiaza's agent apparently in the UK. some monkey suits. As I mentioned, Chiesa last summer window as a great winger option. I'd be truly happy if we got him. A couple of other players linked. 184 we've been linked with so far. Harvey Barnes is another one that Eamon McParlin says, do you think it's genuine interest in him? And of course, the third one, Keith, Bonucci, who is 36, and a lot of people seem to be getting, over the top about something which is never going to happen. 36-year-old. I just genuinely can't see Newcastle going out and spending anything on bringing a player for 1 year. That just doesn't follow the plan whatsoever. But a few players there, Keith. What's your views on those three in particular? Chiesa, Bonucci, and Harvey Barnes. Any chance of any of them being in black and white next season?
I think.
The quicker he sells. Nice to meet you. So do you guys know each other? You're playing against each other?
Where's that from?
That's for Italy. Yeah, I played against him a few times.
Well, that's Kieran Trippier.
Sorry, that's me.
Is he in the room?
No.
Somebody he was, bloody hell.
It's another video with Tonali and his wife.
Well, if we're boring you, George.
It did ring, It did ring.
It took about a minute. It's me. So, going back to the questions, I've done well to keep track of you. I think if we get told we're going to buy Barnes and all these players, Newcastle's form to date is you don't really know who's coming until the deal's concluded. So when you read a lot of people are saying that West Ham's further forward in the bidding for Barnes. The only thing I'd say about the Bonucci deal is that he's retiring next year. He's got a year to go. And there's a couple of things on him. He's an outstanding footballer. And he's as hard as nails. Absolute. Hard as the hobs of hell, that lad. He'll run through walls. And the story coming out is that they would release him. I don't think there would be a fee early. So whether or not Newcastle, Steve, I thought I got that wrong, George. The way you're clapping,
No.
but the way that you read that deal is that if he came, he would, Newcastle might sell themselves to somebody, and that you get a year out of him in the first Champions League campaign. Again, the story when you read it is I don't think there's been talks. But I think he's a very, very useful player. The news that's come out this week that interests me is they reckon Diaby's back on the scene again. And I think the people who put the stories out are agents. I always think it's agents that put the story out to gain interest in their player. So if Newcastle wanted to buy Gallagher from Chelsea, or they wanted to buy Barnes from Leicester, or they wanted to buy Maddison for that thing, they'd have gone and done it. They'd have just gone out, done the deal, wrapped it up. So I tend to think the players we don't hear of are probably the ones Newcastle are looking at, and I think the ones we're getting told they're interested in and talks are ongoing. I don't think in this day and age you're going to mess it. I think the only deal I've seen that I think's genuine is the Livramento from Southampton, and the fee's so big. So that's probably the only one. Who's that playing black and white flags in Mitch's?
Chelsea Rob.
All right. It's good to see he's dressed, but I think that Newcastle play it tight to the chest, and I think that we will get two more players that can go into the first team, and I think we'll get a lot more of these kids. I'd like to see them go for the Brazilian forward because we've chewed on for him for over 12 months. But let's wait and see. If anyone professes to know for fact, it's usually horseshit.
Yeah, it definitely is. Bonucci, Barnes, there's more names being linked. A couple of others. Jimmy Watts said Diaby, Barnes, or Chiesa. George, what's your thoughts on these names being linked? I mean, are we going to go for a 36-year-old, George?
No, I don't. I can't see it. Whatever dealer was offered, I can't see we're doing that. It goes against everything they're trying to do, in my opinion. I've mentioned Barnes on here before, and I agree with Keith. If we really were interested, he would be here now. we wouldn't be still talking about him. He'd be here. And same with some of the others. If their wish was to come to Newcastle, and Newcastle really wanted them, we wouldn't be talking about them. They'd be up to St James's Park with Tonali, shaking hands with Trippier. It's as straightforward as that for me. So no, I'd think a lot of these. And the other thing I agree with Keith is a lot of these stories are agent stories in some way. They want that player in the limelight, and they do it by releasing a daft story. I mean, it even happened with Eddie Howe and the Villa manager, didn't it? He kept putting out that he was Newcastle's first choice. It wasn't him that was doing it. It was his bloody agent, and he was never first choice. Yes, they talked to his agent, but he was never first choice, and that's the kind of rubbish they put out. And I'm like Keith. I think all these names they keep floating around. The best thing for them is that they're deflecting people's eyes away from what we're really doing, and I think that's important. That it comes in, from left field, as they say in the States. You're not expecting it, and the next thing you know, they've signed. And they're making a fuss. So no, I cannot see any of those people being on Newcastle's squad in any time soon.
Steve?
Bonucci's the age band where, let's face it, at 36, you're only destined for one club, and that's Inter Miami, along with Busquets and Messi and Jordi Alba. 34, 35 and 36. He's the perfect age, slots in perfectly with that. Not Newcastle United, Maybe Newcastle United have been 10 years younger, but not now. It's ridiculous. £220,000 a week. Played 9 games last season, apparently, as well. So, what on earth's going on there for someone to even consider linking them? I said last week, I wouldn't be surprised if we also picked up another Italian, because I think sometimes Italians come in twos. They're a bit like buses.
You've been watching them films again?
Sorry?
You've been watching them films again?
Right. But it was the same. I mean, 2 Argentinians, we had them, worked really well. We even brought a third Argentinian at one point to join the gang, didn't we?
Oh, God.
It worked out quite well. But, this is what happens. Chiesa, 25-year-old, speaks English, very clever, sports science degree. Everything about him says that he's a clever lad, good footballer. You know what? If Juve are looking to offload, it's the sort of deal that Newcastle could do, but not necessarily a cash deal. It could be a loan deal, or it could be a swap deal. There could be somebody who plays on the left wing that might suit Juventus, and there might be somebody at Juventus that suits us. Who knows? It might not be Chiesa. I've shouted about Vlahovic for quite a while. And, I do think that there will be, well, we all know that there will be more incomings. The Harvey Barnes one's been hanging around for what? A season and a half, So, again, if Harvey Barnes was on the table, then I think, as George says, he would be here by now. A lot of it goes down to what Dan Ashworth is doing, but also what Newcastle United are looking for, and particularly what Eddie Howe's looking for to bring quality to the squad. Harvey Barnes doesn't exactly have Champions League experience, does he? I think he managed one season, and I think they probably only played the 6 games when they were in the Champions League. I can't remember. I don't know how many games he played, but it's not like he's been, constantly in Champions League football for year in, year out. So Newcastle are looking for something different, I think. We've got a lad playing up front at the moment for England, under 21s, who's doing all right. So it'll be interesting to see his spots in next season. There's an awful long time in the transfer window still to go, and there's an awful lot more deals on the offing, and I'm sure Newcastle United will be in there or thereabouts for quite a number of them, but not the 184, Steve. Not all 184 anyway.
No, definitely not. Your take on the names bandied around there, Mitch?
The key is that having a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Intelligent player, intelligent individual, quality individual. The only doubt over him is he the same player since his bad knee injury? And I don't know if he's shown that yet.
Cruciate.
But you know, he's the kind of clever player that I think would thrive under Howe. Bonucci, I'll be a bit contrarian on. If you were to say to me, we're bringing him in to guide our younger players through the rigours of playing in the Champions League, and that's his remit, I wouldn't say no to that.
I agree.
That a level of experience that not many of our players have. With Trippier aside, really, and you know, and don't underestimate that. You know, we seem to thrive on leadership in the dressing room, not just from the manager and the management team. And to bring a player in like that with no expectation that he's going to play 30 games and he's going to make a difference to the back four, but he might make a difference to the bloody squad as we try to navigate a Premiership season, a Champions League season, and more. Then deals like that sometimes come out of left field and turn out to be decent things. You know, it's not that long ago that Chelsea were laying out players at that kind of age and that stage of their career. And why did they want them? Because they wanted the experience in their back line. Youth players coming in, look, at Root and Branch, we need to sort everything out from top to bottom in the club. So we've got to bring youth players in, really. We can't develop our own because we don't have the time for that. But to be part of a progressive club, to get hold of some of the best young talent and give them what we have, and to be able to develop them in the way that Eddie Howe wants is great. I think that's the same for me with Harvey Barnes. He's the right age, has the right kind of experience and the right kind of potential that under Eddie Howe could he become something much more. We have examples of what Eddie Howe is able to do with players. Joe Linton. And if you get someone who has that kind of potential and then put him in the right place, if he's mentally up for it and able to grow and develop, you don't know what you're going to get beyond what we already have. I think there are options there that are really quite more than solid. And I wouldn't be unhappy to be fair with any of them. For different reasons, though, you know. I think we have to look at where we're going now. Our journey is taking a different turn because we qualified for the Champions League. And if you were to say to me, again, going back to Bonucci, drop him in to our Champions League squad and tell him, right, in this squad, you were going to help us navigate the group stages and use your experience to help our squad develop within that group. I don't think that would be a bad shout, you know.
There's another aspect as well to the youth development that we're forgetting, and that's just take a look at what Chelsea have done recently. You know, yes, they were accused of building a youth farm of young players, but it's served them in good stead this season when they're being able to sell players that cost them absolutely nothing, players that they brought through the youth team. You know, likes of Loftus-Cheek, who they've just sold to Juve for 25 million. Mason Mount to Man United, 55 million. Hudson-Odoi, another player. And there are others. You look back over the last few seasons of youngsters that have gone. There's a young kid that's been at has he been at Brighton all season? The central defender who Brighton are trying to offer 35 million for, Colwell. And Chelsea don't want to sell him yet. But this has helped Chelsea with the FFP, with the aspect of the club that they're selling players, and that's full cash coming in on the books, and it hasn't cost them anything. And this is something, these players are being bought for the future. They're being bought for 5 and 6 seasons' time, possibly 4 seasons' time. They're also players that you develop, but let's face it, not every player that you develop is going to be the sort of player who's going to get into the first team squad and be able to cement a place. But it's also going to be the sort of player who, if they haven't cemented a place in Newcastle United, will interest other clubs and will have a value. So that's what's going on at the moment. It's another cog at the club that's being developed. It's another cog that's been rusty for years, and they've put some oil on, and it's now starting to turn. And that again can only be good for Newcastle United going forward.
Yeah, okay, great stuff. Got about half an hour to go. Got a few bits and bobs to cram in. As you know, John from QDEC hasn't been too well, but he is back on his feet. He's getting out and about, which is great. And it means that the monthly draw is back, the members' monthly draw. So those of you who paid your one-off £25 fee, you are now got to glue yourself to the screens. The winner today will get a signed Lee Clark t-shirt. So the winner is K Halliday, number 255. Well done. You are the winner this month. You get Keith. Not Keith. John will be in touch with you, and he will send you your prize. So well done, and don't forget, if you want to be involved in the monthly draw, then contact John at nufcmatters.com, and you can join as a cult member. And it's a big congratulations to Mick Gilchrist. Mick, if you're still in the chat, you have won the Shearer Ball that you bought some raffle tickets for. So well done, Mick. If John will get in touch with you and get your address, we will be able to send out the ball. So well done, Mick. 2 winners tonight on NUFC Matters, and great to have John back in the mix and getting amongst things and getting out, being out with Keith this week, being out for a coffee with me. Keith took him out for some food, but great to see you back in the chat as well, John, on a regular basis. So welcome back. Okay, we missed Keith's laugh last week. We'll definitely not miss it this week. Ta-da! Keith. Boogie Morris straight in with a classic hasty. We've got some great ones, Keith, today. This one from you, Keith.
Richard Gere lookalike. Who said that? Spenny Mag, I think.
Spenny Mag sent that one to you, yes. Richard Gere lookalike, not quite Steve Hasty. This one's a belter. Hasty and Crocs.
What the hell?
Jesus Christ.
Hey God, when I seen that one. This one. Thanks to Rita for that one.
Got your best side there, Steve.
Stephen does look like it, to be fair, mate. Same colour.
He's like a postage. He's like a
Yours
postage.
is a little bit too big.
I wonder, top
Bottom
right.
left.
What about top right?
Look at the Nashers on bottom left.
Who gets them dogs and puts them on a leader and takes them out for a walk?
That's brilliant, isn't it?
Mate.
And this one.
I blame artificial intelligence, me.
That one from Jimmy.
Jimmy Moore.
Hello, Jimmy.
Good job, Jimmy lives abroad.
Haggard Hasty from Toonboy.
Look at that.
Stephen.
Poor B.
And this one, Steve's been the rounds. An old photo of Mr. Hasty in his leather vest after a night at the Mayfair.
God almighty.
A lookalike, a guy on Homes Under the Hammer, and Steve Hasty.
Oh God!
One of my favourites is
These
Afro Hasty.
these people must have nothing else to do.
Well, we know that much.
Steve Hasty after a nose job from Sam Chipperfield.
Damn, how great! Hey, lad.
And Brian.
Sam, your hard drive needs checking, mate.
Steve Hasty, that's a brilliant one, that. To be honest. Forgotten all about Brian Badonde. Hasty out for a Sunday stroll with one of his mates, says Jacob.
No, that does actually look like my old dog, I must admit.
It does. And Albert, Hasty waiting for the next lookalike.
On the old piano.
Another one from Sam. Remember when Hasty was on Bo Selector?
God almighty.
Dear me.
And a massive thank you to Sam Fender Music for not only allowing us to collect outside St James's Park for his shows last month, but also for a subsequent generous donation. And somebody asked, is that Steve Hasty?
Brilliant.
In the left there?
Yeah.
It's not you,
No.
Steve, is it? No,
that's terrible.
And Rita decided to be nice. If Hasty was
You'd take that hasty, surely.
You would do, definitely.
no,
Okay, on to some lookalikes. Jeff Shreves and Steve Bruce.
That's good, that
Oh,
one.
God.
God almighty.
Keith and his sideline job of part-time Tony Angelino impersonator. From Stephen. Yes, Barry from EastEnders.
That's mad, isn't
That
it?
is Barry.
Doesn't look a bit like him, doesn't it?
Aye.
Look like the full Monty 2, John Beresford and
Yes.
Robert Carlyle.
That's brilliant. That is brilliant.
It's not bad.
Stu Penman and Rob Cross.
Stuart would take that, like.
He would, like, aye. And the many faces of Liam Kennedy. Honestly, you've seen the show last week where he had this mustache. Freddie Mercury, Tom Selleck, John Cleese, and Pablo
Escobar.
Yeah, Pablo Escobar. And
top left.
God.
Top left was the funniest.
That one, another couple there as well of Liam. He's got some stick this week, the poor lad.
Poor lad.
Grows a mustache, and that's what he gets. And gets this as well. Hello.
Hello.
Separated at birth.
Yeah, that's pretty good, that one as well. Got to be said. Yeah, Jeffrey Dahmer featuring a bit this week. Sunderland's owner.
Oh my God.
And Apprentice Mitch.
Probably about right, to be fair.
Is that Anthony Gordon stewarding at Lords?
Cracking.
Very good.
Good.
And I had a Steve Wraith Saturday night double on TV. Andrew Howard and the True Memoirs of an International Assassin, and Anthony Carrigan as No, Hank and Barry. Thank you, mates. Yes. Did get a feature this week. Wayne Rooney and Aaron Ashmore of Smallville.
That's good, that.
Pretty good.
Yeah,
it is.
Tom Dixon sent this one in. Brock Lesnar and Kevin De Bruyne.
I cannot see that, Tom.
What the hell is fire?
And Liam Neeson and Frank Lampard. So we're getting a few of these. Tonali and Pirlo.
If it's in skill, yes, that would be great.
If he's half the player, that would be fantastic.
Kylo Ren, of course, Adam Driver and Tonali. We've had a few of those. We'll continue to get them in, I think.
That's good.
Jeff Lynn and Bonzo Dog Do Bob.
Bonzo Dog Do Band.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. We used to get him on quite a bit, didn't we?
He gets hammered more than me at times, I think.
Me again, this time in Coronation Street. See, any bald bloke in Cor is an easy target for me. And that's another one from the professionals, of course. Martin Sheen.
Yeah. George Gently.
On holiday in Mallorca and see Jamie Foxx playing bass in a band, said Yorkie. Albert was on fire this week. There's Stu. not a lookalike. There's Mitch.
Yay! I've got one of them.
And there's a good lookalike.
That's class, that's brilliant.
Like as I said, we've had a few of these ones. For whatever reason, obviously Tonali signing on this week has been a big thing. So obviously quite a few of them. Just work my way through. There's the next one. Tonali and Clark Kent from Rita.
It's a different Clark Kent to the one I remember.
Yeah, there's been a few, hasn't there, over the years.
Show me age.
Gary Glitter's aged well.
Oh, yeah, me.
Yeah.
That's a shame.
And this one came across this today. A young Mel Brooks looking like Mickey Rooney or George Formby. A young Gene Hackman looking like Anthony Gordon. And a young Gene Wilder looking like Nicolas Cage.
I tell you what, you know what? Mel Brooks looks a bit like Harvey Barnes.
That's a good shout, actually. It's a good shout, but that was quite a good one. Not a winner though. There, the Fonz and Zola.
I love that one.
Yeah,
it's really good. That like.
Here's Lo Connor and Pink.
That's good.
Last few: Bruce Willis and Luca Vialli.
Good looking lad, him on the left.
Again, thank you, Jimmy, for that one. We've had this one before as well. Doesn't get boring though.
The rat on the right.
Yeah.
And this was a good one. Super Mac and Jeffrey Dahmer.
Oh my God! I bet he's
Super Mac
pleased.
used to bury them though.
I
Said
bet
Tim.
he's pleased with that.
Aye.
That's it. And the winner this week is this one. Ron Perlman and the cat that looks like Ron Perlman.
That is good. That is.
It's very good. Yeah. Keep them coming in. Some great lookalikes this week. Thanks very much for everybody who submitted. Okay, let's ask this question. Well done, Mick, by the way, for winning the ball. What's your thoughts on UEFA putting a block on owners who own several teams in different countries being able to sell and loan between them? Looks like we can't offload Fraser for 100 million to Al Hilal now, Keith.
Well, there's been all kinds of. I mean, if you look at today, there's been news released that Brighton and Aston Villa have got restrictions put on them because of the clubs their owners own. We've seen Leicester being charged with shirt costs. We've seen Man City, a lot of press about that, 115 charges. And there was a good video out today, me and Mitch were reading. And when you watch it, it's pretty damning. I mean, when you see some of the evidence in that, and then you've got Everton that's just getting pushed aside. So there's 5 clubs in the top flight. Well, one's just dropped out, Leicester, but who were... Well, put this way, they're not Newcastle, and it's supposed to be us. It's supposed to be Newcastle that's got all the problems. It does beg the question, and I said it to somebody today on Twitter. I wonder what would happen if somebody bought Maxi for 200 million, and sent him to Saudi, and then maybe he's loaned them back on half wages. So PIF aren't in Europe. I wonder how that works, but it seems as though all of a sudden there seems to be a lot of clubs being charged. For me, I think it's wise that PIF play with a straight bat right now, and I think until Man City's charges are heard, I fear for the worst. I think Man City's best policy is to push it into the long grass and procrastinate and get their lawyers to argue on default and argue on small errors to try and discredit the case. Because I think if the case gets heard in a high court, even just from watching that it was like an hour's video today, it seems difficult that their CFO, Chief Financial Officer at Man City, didn't know some of the payments he was paying. They always say in a court case, the judge, I mean, the KCs used to preach this to me, a judge will watch people and you've only got to get proven telling lies once and then you become a liar for the rest of that case. And for me, I think that's what any panel will do. And when you hear of some of Man City's charges, I just don't see how they're going to defend them. If you look at some of the payments on Etihad and Etisaal, you think to yourself, Christ. I mean, some of the documentary evidence they've got in video and in email from people working in Etihad, it's so damning. I mean, you can't undo an email, and it's classed as evidence. And I knew Man City would deliberate and pushing it away, but you can only push away things so long. And Neil made a comment today on there that basically, if those charges hit, it will be catastrophic. It will be, the limit and the fines and the level of removing trophies and all the rest, it knows no bounds. But what I see going on in football now is that something's going to change and something's going to happen. I think while everyone's got the eyes on Newcastle, worrying about what we're doing and what we're not doing, and worrying about what PIF are doing right in world football and not doing right, I think Newcastle should just keep on doing what they're doing, coaching people to a hell of a high level, bringing in youth, bringing people under the radar, and adding 3 gems per transfer window until we get to the point that we outperform the others. But seriously, if the other route is to go the Man City route, you see what they've done, where it appears that income and sponsor money wasn't genuine and was credited back, or watch that video that's out there. Roger Cook's asking on there, Mitch, what is it? If you go on,
I was going to say, have a look through my timeline on Twitter. I think I've got it retweeted somewhere on there. I had a little watch it this afternoon, and it is. It backs up everything that I've seen already about it all, and some of the stuff that was published here before it got pulled, and a few things beyond. It's certainly worth a watch.
It's on my timeline too, but it is an hour's watch. But after 20 minutes, just watching, or fast forward it to 15 minutes in, and after you've listened for 20 minutes, you think, how are they going to get away with this?
And the other thing I would say to people is watch it with an open mind, because some of those journalists on that video are ones that have had a go at us as well.
Yeah.
And so you've got to understand the places that they're coming from. But it's quite clear that there are questions that need to be answered, and the problem remains that the Premier League have felt either unsure of their own laws or unsure of their ability to act on their own laws, and so they've sidepast it like they have done with everything, and that's very, very frustrating. But it also gives us a roadmap about how we can not fuck up.
I think for us, we should just keep on doing what we're doing and bring youth in, and not get caught up in this. It to me, it seems as though it's a demand by overzealous people to buy success quicker than you need to. And to me, it's competing on the Mbappe's and the Messi kind of deals. And it's like trying to buy instant success, which is not being Eddie Howe's model. And if you look at the people he's bringing through and see the differences he's making in coaching people, I think just keep doing this. If we get 3 players in this window that can play in the first team, and they'll get kids, some youngsters to strengthen the squad, I think we'll have another great season. But watch that video, because even if somebody is biased, if they present evidence, it doesn't really matter where it comes from. Evidence is evidence, but it's quite damning. On that, people, I've got to go because I've just been told my taxi's outside. The show started half an hour late, so I've got to thank everybody for this week. Thank you all on the panel and say
great to see you, mate.
Good night.
Good to see you, Keith.
Take care.
Have a good night.
Take care.
Great to see, Keith. Okay, George, your feelings on what we've been discussing there?
Well, what Keith says, right, for us, PIF, to keep doing what they're doing is the way forward. And they have a slight advantage, in my view, to all the others. PIF are affecting the community as well as the football club. So it just isn't building on the club and adding to the club and adding to the club. It actually is impacting on the wider community, on the supporters, on all sorts of other things. And I think that's something the others have not even touched on. You know, apart from their own ground and a training ground, I don't think Manchester City's owners have had that much effect on Manchester. We're seeing the possibility of things happening in Newcastle with PIF ownership. So that's the other thing I'd like to see them keep going. The other thing saddens me is that a lot of this stuff, and I watched the video that the lads have talked about, is sheer bloody greed of some people. I can't get over the fact that our game is being used as a cash cow for some fairly unscrupulous people, and that's quite sad. In fact, it's more than sad. It puts the game the beautiful game in grave danger, because it's one thing that'll turn people off is if they think they're getting taken for a ride unnecessarily, and it would be tragic. It would be tragic, and that would that they would pay a heavy price for that. But the trouble is, by then football's damaged, and that's the last thing I want to see. So I think, following on Keith, absolutely right. Keep doing what we're doing, but also adding the strand where it's clear that PIF are helping the community and other things as well as the football club. And that's something the others have never done. If people have got caught doing things they shouldn't have got done, then they've got to pay the price. But that's the trouble. Some people seem to be paying the price and others don't seem to be paying the price. In fact, others don't even seem to be being hauled up about things. So it's it's back to this click at the top. Are they getting away with things that others aren't? And as long as our club stays out of that, then we've got nothing to fear. I think we'll go forward.
Okay, Steve.
Well, I mean, we've only heard one side, haven't we? I mean, and George's the first one to tell us that, you know, when a case goes to court, you have to hear both sides before you can then make a judgment. And at the moment, we're only seeing one side, but we're not seeing the official one side. We're seeing the one side as pulled together by information from journalists.
Yeah.
And we know for a fact that a lot of the stuff that is out there was leaked. Was it part of the Panama Papers or something like that? There was certainly a massive dump of information that found its way to a German newspaper, and that's where all of this came from. City will have an answer to every single one of the charges because they're going to fight every single one of the charges. We know that. And I think that's where Keith's coming from when he said, you know, this could drag on probably 3 or 4 years. And a lot of the charges are going back to 2011. And I think they revolve around the time when City had Mancini as manager and they were desperate to have someone of the caliber of Mancini. And I think that some of the sponsorship deals that came in were dubious to say the least, if you look at it on face value. But the question is, were rules broken? And if so, how? And when? And why did the Premier League not pick up on it a lot more sooner than just a leak? Because it should have been fairly evident that something was awry. I think a lot of people at the time thought the way City were being financed was very strange. I mean, Mitch and I talked about it way back with Man City fans, if I remember rightly, at a particular FSA, well, what was called SF then, event in Newcastle back in 2008. And the fans of City were explaining how things were going and how excited they were and such like. But the very fact that the airline Etihad that was sponsoring the club was owned by the owners or ran by the owner's brother, you know, straight away, it little things like that. But at no time was it ever picked up on. So we'll see where it goes. We'll see where it heads. But it doesn't impact Newcastle United, thank goodness. The way that you're looking at with the other clubs and what's been mentioned about Villa today and Brighton, obviously that's because their owners both own clubs that are going to be playing in the same competition as them. And that's where the problems are arisen. Now, this is a problem that's been around for a long time. And it reared its head way back when Tottenham were owned by ENIC. And they ended up having to go to Greece to play one of the Greek teams. And the Greek team was also owned by ENIC at the time. And I think that's when this particular door got slammed shut, if you like. Well, it hasn't been slammed shut that very tight, because what they've said is you can carry on as long as you don't play each other. I'd be interested to see what would happen with Nice if Man United get bought by Jim Ratcliffe, and then obviously Nice are owned by Jim Ratcliffe. They're coming here in a couple of weeks' time as well. And if all of a sudden they found themselves playing in European competition. Now, we all know that the way Nice have been playing recently and their league position wouldn't necessarily make you think that that the opportunity for Man United to play in Nice in a European competition would happen anytime soon. But it also shows you that despite all of the money that Jim Ratcliffe had at ENEOS, that their sponsorship hasn't exactly pushed Nice up the table in the manner that many people thought it would. And that falls into line with something that I heard way back when Newcastle fans were writing to Jim Ratcliffe asking if he would buy Newcastle United. And a friend of mine did speak to Jim Ratcliffe himself, and he said that they were only interested in buying football clubs where they thought there was value. Now, it was also interesting that you hear that, and then all of a sudden he goes for Man United because he can hardly think that Man United at £6 million is valuable, or of a business.
That's because he doesn't want to buy all of it to get rid of the debt.
That's the other thing. He's only wanting to buy 55%, but we also know that 55% of Man United doesn't give you 55% and of a vote in the boardroom. So that's a for another day. We'll stick the 10-1.
Yeah, lots of noise about Harvey Barnes. The Telegraph has reported it. Yeah. It is going mad on Twitter at the minute.
Something in the Telegraph, was it, Steve?
Yeah, it's come from the Telegraph. So yeah, interesting. Mitch will give you the final word on this because the programme's drawn.
Look, I'll tell you the interesting thing I see from this about associated clubs. There's no mention of Nottingham Forest and Olympiacos, and there's no mention of Watford and Udinese. So there's quite clearly a way to do deals between associated clubs that everybody's happy with. And because surely they would be in there because of the amount of deals they've done between each other in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And so it would suggest to me that both Brighton and Villa have done things out of the ordinary that are genuinely massaging the rules. Whereas what Forest and Olympiacos and Udinese and Watford have done are within the rules, perhaps. I don't know. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I've seen nothing about those two clubs.
No.
And that's significant.
It's because they're going to play the same European competition. They're going to be playing each other in the UEFA Cup. That's the thing.
Right. And I know for a fact we do have interest in a Belgian club.
Mm-hmm.
No, I better not say too much more. But I know that those discussions have been had and PIF will invest in a Belgian club. And for me, that's a perfect kind of Belgian club. There's 4 or 5 of them who bounce between the top flight and the second flight and the top flight and the second flight, and they need stability. They've all been through the hands of various fan groups owning them. They've had 6 different stadium changes in the last 20 years, and they need stability, and that's what PIF could bring to one of those clubs. So I think it's something that will definitely happen. How that arrangement works though for us will probably be very different to how it works with other ones as well. And I find it fascinating that football administrators going for the low-hanging fruit again with it, whilst ignoring the people at the very top, and I suspect they are. They're going for the ones that can get easy. Because look what we've done. We've done this. It's like, remember when they chucked Red Star Belgrade out the Champions League?
Yeah.
And it was a big statement because they'd won it once or twice. They won the Champions Cup, and these are a historically big club, but they're not a big club anymore. They're a tiny little club in terms of finances. And so it was really, they were stamping all over the little man to make a point and say, look how strong we are on FFP, when actually it meant jack shit and people were getting with all sorts at the top end of the food chain. And I don't know how much of that makes a big change here. We need to see big movements and big statements and big bans and big resolutions, and I don't know if we're ever really going to see that. The fact that the Premier League have referred so much to independent commissions tells me they're not even sure of their own ability to act by their own rules, and they're not even sure about how watertight their own rules are. And I'm going to tell you right now, if something goes south with any of those, we will be amongst the clubs that then take a train and drag it right through all the rules and say these rules are shite, they don't apply to us and they don't apply to anybody, and you've just proved it in a court of law that you're unable to make a judgment on their own competition. So it's a free for all now. I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. And do you know who the media will blame? Us.
Yeah. Watch this space, everybody. 2 hours of great conversation amongst mates and some great interaction with the chat. Big thanks to all the moderators as well.
And again, do you know, we say this time and again, I hope everybody's seen today, but don't always agree on everything.
No, we don't.
And we're quite happy to put that out there. that sometimes we fundamentally disagree on things. And we're quite happy to put it out there because this is what this show's about. It's about open debate and honesty.
Yeah, 100%. Not so much a troll, but this was funny. The guy clearly they clearly had a pop at me 4 years ago, and then it was reported, but not by me. And I think it was tongue in cheek, the original comment, because I didn't block the guy.
Yes.
So clearly, this is just bizarre. This is just another example, I guess, of it looks like trolling. It's not, and Elon Musk's mucked it up, but it was a good excuse to play Julie's favourite music. Also got to slip this in as well. Steve Wraith tastes Cannes successes, return to acting pays off. Mark Graham commented, "Hey Steve, we've already had Cannes. The takeover happened and it wasn't a dream." Very good, Mark. Very good, Mark. Congratulations, mate. That wasn't tweet of the week. That deserved its own little segment, to be perfectly honest. Okay, it's a pre-record tomorrow. Geordie's here, Geordie's there, 10 o'clock in the morning if you want to watch that. And then it's a live show, 6 o'clock on Sunday night with me, Mitch and Stu, of course, with the professionals. But if you've enjoyed the show, please give it a thumbs up. Big thanks to Mitch, to Steve, to George, and to Keith. Have a great weekend. See you all soon, guys. Take care.
Thank you, everybody.
everyone.
Thank you.